we are live now.
A very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to Dhwani Foundation's webinar series Grants Plus. I am Lalita from Dhwani Foundation. Dhwani Foundation is an 18-year-old not-for-profit organization with a vision of a credible and vibrant social sector. We work closely with small, rural, and grassroots NGOs and help them in strengthening their organization through our various organizational development programs. To achieve our vision, we believe it is important for us to engage with the various stakeholders in the social sector. We started the Grants Plus series to engage with a very important stakeholder in the social sector, the donor. There is an African proverb which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. The topic for today's webinar is CSR collaborations for greater impact. Collaboration is a key to many successful initiatives. By leveraging collective resources, knowledge, and expertise, and optimizing resources, organizations have achieved greater impact. This can help in building sustainability in the social sector. Going forward, multi-stakeholder collaborations will be vital for the growth in the sector. Our expert panelists from corporate and non-profit sectors have successfully implemented collaborative projects. The purpose of this webinar is to understand how this was made possible, what are the learnings, challenges, and the impact. So I take great pleasure in first introducing our esteemed panelists of today. We have with us Rohini Kamath. Rohini is a project manager CSR at Cisco. Rohini oversees the India Cash Grant Program at Cisco India, serving as a custodian for strategy, governance, operations, and compliance specific to the unique mandate. With over 15 years experience in the social impact field, Rohini boasts a solid history of crafting and executing philanthropic and employee engagement strategies across various Indian cities, including pioneering the introduction of payroll giving for Cisco India. Additionally, Rohini has recently assumed the role of committee lead for the APJC Regional Solutions Grant Program for Cisco, designed to engage Cisco employees in the strategic investments of Cisco Foundation. Beyond her responsibilities with the Cash Grant Program, Rohini also leads the Cancer Support Network chapter in India for Cisco. Welcome, Rohini. Now we have with us. Thank you for being here, Rohini. Now we have another panelist. We have Arun Arora with us. Arun is a director of strategy, communications, CSR, and ESG at Mavin Chetak Logistics and head of Chetak Foundation. He has over 37 years of experience in communications, policy, advocacy, reputation management, CSR, ESG, sustainability, education, and communication training. Arun is a communications, CSR, ESG, and sustainability coach. He is fond of writing. He is the author of 2 books and also contributes to newspapers and magazines. Arun has won many awards. One among them is the Mahatma Award for Leadership in CSR, Sustainability, and Social Impact in 2022. He was also a jury member for the prestigious B.M. Munchal Business Excellence Award in 2019. Welcome to the webinar, Arun. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Lalita. So kind of you. You make me look so old, 37 years and above. I didn't realize I was so old. And don't take the Mahatma Award seriously, because I was given that award because my hairstyle matched that of Mahatma.
Yes, thanks for coming and lightening the mood of the webinar, Arun. So we also have with us Namrata Agarwal. Namrata leads fundraising and strategic finance at Quest Alliance. She believes and is passionate about the idea that truly purposeful partnership between funders and non-profits can be transformative for everyone. She is also part of the executive leadership team at Quest, driving strategic growth areas. Namrata's career spans 20 plus years, balancing stints in the corporate and social sector. Her experience spans in sales, marketing, and fundraising in national and international geographies. Prior to Quest Alliance, Namrata has worked with leading organizations like Capgemini, Wipro, and Madrid. Welcome to the webinar and thanks for being on the panel today, Namrita.
Thank you for having me, Lalita.
And we also have with us today Krishna Kumar. He is a trustee at Dhwani Foundation. He is popularly referred to as KK. KK has an extensive experience in sales, sales management, operations, global client relations, and management consultancy across industries. Having spent most of his career in early stage startups, he has had the opportunity to set up new centers and engagements for companies across multiple geographies. His key skills include setting up and scaling operations, bridging gaps between front and back ends, process improvement, and working with diverse teams. He has been closely associated with the social sector through Dhwani for the last 6 years. Welcome to the panel, KK.
You.
So let's get on with our discussions now. I would like to start with you, Rohini. There is a lot of talk about the importance of collaborations among CSRs. Cisco is supporting a project in collaboration with few other corporate CSRs. So we would like to know if you can talk about what kind of collaboration, what is the model, is this funding only a fund, is it only a funding collaboration or more than that? So it will be great to understand your collaboration efforts. Over to you, Rohini.
Yeah, thanks, Lalita. And I'll definitely request Namrita to also jump in and add to anything that we might have missed out, that I might have missed out, because Quest Alliance and Namrita, who represents Quest Alliance, is very integral to this partnership that I'm going to highlight. So it's called Future Right Skills Network. And I have to be very candid in calling out the fact that it was my then manager, Murugan, who was fundamentally behind coming together with Accenture. So when it first started off in 2019, we realized that both Accenture and our Cisco, we were collaborating with Quest Alliance in the skilling domain, and we were doing very similar things in terms of our agendas and the type of projects that we were working on largely. And of course, Quest was one of them in the skilling space that we were working closely on. And that is when Cisco and Accenture first came together to indicate that this is something that we could do together and come to the table together. And that's how it started. JP Morgan joined us shortly after. And most recently, I think it was December last year, that SAP Labs also joined the collaborative. It's called Future Right Skills Network. And just after I finish speaking, I'll make sure I post a link in chat. And what we're doing is working very closely with the MSD in the central government to influence and encourage them to look at the future of skills, keeping in mind what's the future of jobs, what is most relevant today, because the employability skills curriculum has only undergone so many iterations. And again, within the ITI ecosystem, there's so much that is happening at any given point of time. We wanted to make sure that from an industry standpoint, we are able to meaningfully contribute to how the curriculum would look like. So that's predominantly the collaboration. There is definitely a monetary component to it, and we've all committed to it in a manner that it's all equally allocated. However, what I enjoy most as part of the collaborative is the ability for all of us to come together every quarter to review the strategy for FRSN, what's working, what's not, what can we do to help each other. And in the process, we also end up discussing other things that are not largely covered as part of the project. It could be a grant management tool that we are actually using that we're having challenges with, and we might get a recommendation. So it's also facilitated a lot more conversations beyond this. And I'll make one last point and stop there. I think when Cisco and Accenture came up with the idea, what was equally important is that Quest Alliance and Akash, who's part of the leadership team, or one of the founders at Quest, Namita, correct me if I'm wrong, was very clued in to and very aligned to the vision. And there's often this whole concern about, we don't want to share space, or, we don't want to work with the same kind of donors, or we don't want to work with similar partners. I think for us, we all were on the same page where we said that it's a very big problem to solve. There's only so much that we can do when we work in silos. Let us all come together. So that's how it started off.
Okay, that was very interesting. So, was there anything more than grants also, technology or any other support also was involved as a part of the collaboration, Rohini?
No, as part of the collaboration, and as you must be aware, the law doesn't recognize donations in kind as CSR, as part of the CSR, as a budget allocation. That said, though, we also, I mean, just given the nature of the work, maybe tools like WebEx that we use for collaboration might be the most relevant from a technology standpoint. I think for us, it's about the thought leadership that we bring to this space with the work that Cisco does. Same is the case with Accenture, same is the case with SAP and JPM. So yeah, it's thought leadership over and above what we do through the grant. And if there is a need for a particular technology skill set that might be aligned to what certain tenured employees in Cisco might possess, we are more than happy to also offer that. But so far, we haven't done anything in that space.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Soni. Arun, I would like to come to you now. No, we say CSR collaborations. The minute we say CSR collaboration, the first thought that comes to our mind is collaborative funding. Collaboration need not be only for grant giving; it can go beyond money. So you have at Chetak have implemented community-centric projects in collaboration with other organizations. So can you talk about what kind of collaborations you have implemented, Arun?
Yes, thank you, Lalita. Just let me give you a brief background. I belong to this organization called Chetak Logistics, which was set up by Mr. Jakaran Sharma, who was typical rags to riches story. He belonged to a very small village, Ginger in Haryana. He was a farmer's son and he was very moderately educated. He studied till 9th standard or 10th standard. But with his passion and hard work, he went on to build one of the largest logistics company in India. And he was also big time into philanthropy, as that generation understood. He'll build temples, dharamshalas, and he'll get help with financial help with getting girls' weddings in the villages and girls' education and all that. So-called daan karte the and things like that. So it was essentially philanthropy, and unfortunately we lost him in 2020 after he passed away. So the family decided as a tribute to set up a foundation as a tribute to him. So that is how Chetak Foundation was set up. So basically we took advantage of the fact that we were quite naive in this area of CSR, actually structured CSR, and we were moving from philanthropy to CSR. So we formed a board of directors and we decided that we'll work on identifying who our target beneficiaries are, what is the financing model, and which areas are we going to focus on. So first of all, since we are into logistics, and logistics is responsible for creating a lot of pollution, a lot of road safety issues, and the prime pivot of logistics is the truck drivers. So we decided that our prime beneficiaries will be truck drivers for the various interventions that we choose to undertake. And second is we'll be focusing on issues related to their drivers, road safety, drivers' health, and also we'll address the fact that logistics creates a lot of pollution. So we will work on environment issues and road safety issues. So that was second. Third major decision we had taken was that since it was a philanthropic outreach of the founder, so can we maintain that we will be doing a lot of CSR and we will be collaborating with a lot of like-minded people. Like Rohini very beautifully mentioned that their vision aligns. So I'll just add another point to that. We chose our partners wherein our vision aligned as well as passion aligned. So we collaborated with a lot of people with the basic premise that there'll be no monetary exchange in our relationship. So that was a difficult one also. That was a good one also. For instance, when we told people that we want to work with you, but there'll be no monetary exchange, we'll not seek any money from you or we'll not give away any money from you. The model that we work on is simply whatever strengths we have, we bring to the table. Whatever the other partner skills they have, they bring to the table, and together we implement the project. So that is the model we worked on, and I'll be happy to share more details about that.
Okay. So we will come to the details of that model the next round.
Sure.
So, Namrata, I would like to come to you now. So, basically, Rohini and Arun spoke from the perspective of corporates. First Alliance has been the fulcrum and collaborated on this project that Rohini has been talking about, working with four different corporates. So, I mean, it will be really interesting to know how did you make this happen? How did the collaboration affect the impact of the program? No, so what made you even think of this bringing together different corporates on one program? Over to you, Namrata.
Sure. Sure. So I'll take on, I think, from what Rohini said. The collaboration we're talking about is the Future Right Skills Network, which works at looking at shifting the skilling ecosystem in India to make young people more future ready. Right? So that's the work we're talking about. Like Rohini said, this project really came together because Accenture was already funding Quest Alliance for skilling, Cisco was already funding Quest Alliance for skilling, JP Morgan was already also funding Quest Alliance, and we were all working in the ITI ecosystem, right? I think when the conversation around this started in 2018, it didn't really start saying we need to do a collaborative. We were sitting around a table with Accenture, with Cisco, and I think Accenture by then had funded us for like 8-10 years. Cisco had also funded us for 3-4 years by then, and we were all thinking, all this is happening, but what's really changing, right? And what do we want to do more? What do we want to do next, right? And that's where I think the idea of a collaborative was born together, right? Saying that if we've been doing this work for so many years, and if you want to really make a difference, then this individual projects and individual geographies and reporting and is not going to work, right? We need to look at it differently. So we said, let's come together. And it was literally around a table that this conversation started. And then, Kshitija from Accenture thought about it. Murugan, who Rohini mentioned, went back and discussed. And we didn't get into how this will be done with CSR. We said, this is a vision that we want to have to change, and let's come together. So Accenture, Cisco, Quest Alliance, we came together in 2019 to say two things. I think one, we basically set a clear vision on what do we want to do. Second, there were some basic areas of work that we aligned on and long-term goals. So there was a commitment saying every funder who's coming in will commit to a minimum of 3 years because change can't happen, which doesn't mean they have to sign a contract because in CSR there are also issues, but there was an in-principle commitment saying we're committed to this vision and we'll continue to support this vision. That's how the Future Right Skills Network was born. And then JP Morgan joined in, and like Rohini mentioned, SAP Labs joined in last December as well. For us, the experience largely has been that, the idea that you're focusing on the problem and saying we want to shift this and we will figure everything else out. That fundamentally has been important. Second, like Rohini said, it's not just a funding arrangement. Yes, there is money that goes in, but really we are able to look at the larger problem and say, okay, if a skilling ecosystem needs to change in the ITIs, it's not just training and placement. The teachers need to be trained, the infrastructure needs to be taken care of, the principals need to be taken care of, the curriculum needs to be refreshed, there needs to be more research, more data. There is a whole lot of ecosystem, right? And work was a huge important part of the aspect. So for us, what a collaborative has done is help really look at the problem holistically. And this agnostic to the solution. So like you were saying, is it beyond funding? It's largely thought partners, and we will bring a solution which is relevant to that young person who needs to go out into the world. And so there is no partner who comes in saying, take the solution. The solutions are offered. As a group, we decide if it's relevant. If it's relevant, we take it. But it's not an entry condition saying only if you use my solution will I be a part of the network. So we've also set certain non-negotiables saying we'll do what is right to do in the ecosystem. So that's what. In terms of the impact, I think, like I said, one, to be able to look at the problem holistically. It's given us that. So today, what FRSN started doing 3 years back, we've actually changed certain gears and said, okay, we've done this work. We've built the employability skills curriculum. We're building an AI curriculum. We've trained teachers across the country. Now let's look at some future trends. Let's look at engaging with the industry. So we're able to look at just beyond a project. Second, I think when we are working with the government, the power of the network also brings the idea that more people are looking at the network as they're identifying the problem. They're also identifying the solution. So today the network is a trusted partner for the government who's calling us for any advice or any consultation saying, how do we want to take it forward, right? Because they know it's not one organization. There are today 5 organizations, Quest and 4 partners working on this. So really to be able to say, and all of the partners, I think we've been, when we go for a government meeting, they're all there, they're all putting their weight behind the problem. Saying we are here, we want to solve this, tell us what more we can do, or even tell the government this is what we would like to do in the space because this is what we see. So I think power of networks is really helpful in pushing the systems and making change where it is going to be long lasting. And I can have more stories, but I'll maybe stop there. But that's, I think, largely 2 things are getting more focus, attention on the problem and solution, and looking at it more holistically as well.
Okay. Thanks, Amrita. So it will be interesting to hear, you're saying that the government looked at it more positively because there are 4 funders supporting the project. We will come to that, no, elaborate discussion on that in the next round. So I would like to come to you, now, KK. So what I want you to talk about is why do you think collaborations are important, and what do you see as benefits of collaboration? Money Foundation is all about strengthening the social sector ecosystem. So what do you think are the potential collaboration options in the social sector? KK?
Yeah, Lalita. So collaboration is not an option for us at Dhwani. It is actually a necessity. Because when people think large, they think collaboration. When people think different, they think collaboration. And I want to illustrate by giving an example where what we did was attempting to grow large as well as different. Therefore, collaboration became the only option available to us. So we run this program called Nirantara, where we have about 8 modules, and we try put NGOs through this process for about a couple of years, and we turned them into good NGOs. Half those modules we found was outsourceable, and we decided that we will not teach our NGOs how to do, but actually go to a third party, a professional agency, and get them to do it. The concept was new to the industry. NGOs did not hear about outsourcing. However, the agency that we had brought in was quite resourceful in having a history of process improvements, cost out, automation, and all of that, whose intent and thought process matched ours. They wanted to serve the sector and did not have only profit motive as the intent. And they saw that they were very good at doing many of the things that we asked them to. Therefore, it was a very natural match for whatever work they had done in the past. And they were willing to, kind of engage with the sector with all its challenges. Think about the situation. And a professional agency who does not understand the social sector, a social sector who does not understand professional agencies, and we in between, understanding some part of professional agencies and hopefully a good part of NGOs, trying to put them together. So the process was slightly complicated, but what was good was that these people were willing to engage with us over a long period of time and not just kind of ready to drop the ball as challenges came up. And it was not easy to kind of go through this entire process because NGOs have their own mindsets, their own fears, their own thought process, experiences from the past. And for them to actually buy into the entire idea and then to make it work was a bit of a challenge as we kind of started to ramp up. But we think the idea was very, very worth it because we're setting a new model, low cost, higher speed, ability for NGOs to scale, deal with more complexities. All of that was kind of falling into place. And even though it required a lot of deep engagements from all sides, it meant that the entire effort was well worth it. So today we have about 80 NGOs, NGO partners in this entire arrangement, an average age of 20 years plus, so very, very experienced, about a 70 lakh budget average per NGO, therefore reasonably well, I won't say, well, been around and done a few things and understand what their work is all about. And this organization today deals with over 8,000 transactions in a month, over 100 donor reports, plus, number of mandatory filings, all of that. So this is an example of how a collaboration was necessary and required deep engagement to make it all come together. But many possibilities for collaborations are possible between NGOs, between donors, and today things are getting more complex, right? There is government, there is international donor agencies, there are large, implementing agencies, and there are NGOs and there are communities, and such large projects are also seen today within the country. So I think collaboration as an exercise has come to stay, and that we're going to see a lot more fine tuning of this vehicle.
Okay. Thanks, KK. So I would like to come back to you, Rohini. So we are talking about corporate collaboration. So what benefits have you seen because of collaboration in the program that you are collaborating? And again, now from your aspect, the effect on the impact of the program, how has it helped? Because your four corporates are collaborating on one program.
Sure. And I think there's somebody by the name Manoj in chat who has requested that we speak in Hindi. Manoj जी क्षमा चाहते हैं जब हमें से कुछ लोग हिंदी में बातचीत कर सकते हैं, लेकिन ये ऐसा टॉपिक है जिसमें complete delivery in Hindi थोड़ी मुश्किल हो सकती है. I think it's fair to say maybe in the future हम try कर सकते हैं कि through AI if there's a translation that's available of a or a summary that can be made available in Hindi. So it's only fair. I think if we want to be more inclusive and accommodative of individuals from different geographies. So abhi ke liye क्षमा चाहते हैं. Really sorry, sir. And I'll try wherever possible to also speak in Hindi. But for us, you said, what did we see as an advantage? So एक तो ऐसी जगह है जहाँ पे हम एक दूसरे से बहुत सारी चीजें सीख सकते हैं. So if tomorrow, like there've been instances where we've exchanged notes on, let's say, an accelerator program that Accenture is running. Just last week, for example, I had reached out to Sagarika from SAP Labs to understand how we could, what are some of the tools that they're using for grant management. So one, we're able to engage beyond just the partnership, right? Like with a larger interest of being able to help each other out, make recommendations. Two, even with Quest, right? We constantly trying to understand, are there other organizations that are willing to join the collaborator? What are some concerns? Because it also gives us a mindset of, a perspective into दूसरे कॉर्पोरेट्स का क्या माइंडसेट है, उनको ऐसी क्या कंसर्न्स हैं कोलैबोरेट करने में, क्या क्या चीजें याद रखनी पड़ती है, क्योंकि कभी कभी ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि हम वो मिस कर रहे हैं और हो सके तो उसको भी इंक्लूड किया जाए. सो इट्स डेफिनेटली दैट number one. Number two, there are also instances where Accenture might have a very good, and they do, very good government connect, for example, to get the attention of the right stakeholder. Now, हम ऐसा काम नहीं कर रहे हैं जहाँ पे ये प्रोजेक्ट डिलीवरी मोड पे है. दिस इज systems change, and systems change is only possible, like Namrata also spoke about the fact that you have to work very closely with government stakeholders, and again, central government, state government, concurrent subjects, right? It gets pulled in every direction. So to get that attention back to a particular area, कभी कभी ऐसा भी होता है कि हम में से किसी एक का कोई कनेक्ट हो सकता है किसी और सिलसिले में गवर्नमेंट स्टेक होल्डर के साथ, उसको अहमियत देते हैं और उसको डेफिनेटली कन्वर्सेशन में लाते हैं कि हाउ डू वी वर्क विद सच स्टेक होल्डर्स एंड हाउ कैन वी यूज आवर माइट एंड कनेक्शंस मीनिंगफुली टू ड्राइव द लार्जर एजेंडा ऑफ FRSM. And I'll make this last point around how do we come together now. It's a live example. Abhi jo hai, there's a larger conversation around AI based curriculum, or like curriculum around AI to be introduced under employability skills. So there's a very good chance that Cisco might have one subset, and AI is such a broad topic ना, उसमें से कोई एक चीज का सिस्को के पास थोड़ा नॉलेज हो सकता है, एक्सेंचर का completely different होगा as a services company, SAP का different होगा. So we're also able to bring that industry perspective. So I would say largely these would be the three broad advantages of being a part of a collaborative and working collectively rather than in silos.
Okay, that's interesting. Thanks, Rohini. Arun, I would like to come to you next. So you just told us about your model of involving driving a collaboration without actually giving grants. So if you can just give one example of a project that you were mentioning, and also that you have also, I think, Chetak Foundation works closely with the government also in some of your projects. So what has been your experience in collaborating with the government? So if you can just elaborate on that.
Sure. Thanks, Lalita. Yeah, I'll be happy to share a couple of examples where we collaborated with other organizations and there was no monetary exchange. For instance, like I had mentioned earlier, we had identified truck driver as the prime beneficiaries for their improving their health, their working condition, their quality of life. So one of the areas that we focused was that 60 to 70% of the truck drivers in India, not only truck drivers, heavy commercial vehicle drivers, they did not have eyesight good enough to be able to drive on the road. And they all managed to get licenses. So we decided to work on eye health of the drivers, which will lead to better health for the drivers, as well as this will lead to greater safety on the road for truck drivers, for pedestrians, for rest of the motorists on the road, because if they have poor eyesight, they'll end up hitting other people also. So we identified Vision Spring as one of the possible collaborator. Vision Spring is one of the global NGO. Uh, so they were looking for some beneficiaries in this category, and we had abundance of drivers with us. And since we were one of the strong players in transport sector, so we brought in all the beneficiaries. They brought in the skill to test eyes and provide spectacles. And fortunately, Chetak Logistics is spread across India. We have presence in 60 cities. So we offered all the facilities, our warehouses for conducting those camps. So together we organized eye checkup for about 75,000 drivers for the last 1.5 years. And we signed an MOU to check eyesights of 5 million drivers over next 5 to 7 years along with them. And there's absolutely no cost attached to any of the interventions. We provide an entire logistics support in terms of facilities, in terms of refreshment, in terms of logistics of reaching those spectacles to drivers, because drivers are always mobile. So once some driver gets his eyesight check, he might go for months together to another city and he'll come back. So we ensure that they get the spectacles. So this was just one small example of how we collaborated with people, wherein we did not exchange any money, but we managed to implement project. Another interesting project that we worked on, I mentioned about road safety, and we tied up with UNICEF. UNICEF was working on a road safety project, wherein we offered them. We had a very interesting workshop with UNICEF, wherein there were people from UNICEF. UNICEF got some radio jockeys, and they had some of their own employees who were working in the content domain, and we got some of our drivers, and they sat together in a small room and they created a lot of interesting slogans that could be pasted behind our trucks and lorries and trailers. And they together, brainstorm and created 10, 15 such slogans. So UNICEF provided us with those slogans, and then we have about 5,000 odd trailers. We offered those trailers and we pasted those safety slogans, which keep going around entire India, spreading the message of road safety. It was a collaborative effort between UNICEF and Chetak Foundation that again required absolutely no exchange of money, and we did it together. Since I am elaborating, I have a question for Krishna. Krishna, you explained about the concept of corporates, agencies, and NGOs. Now, I worked with a lot of corporates also. I worked with Maruti and Vedanta and GMR, GVK. All of them have well evolved CSR setup. One challenge that I noticed corporates face is when they try to identify NGOs for sharing their CSR budget for implementing projects, they are not sure of the credibilities of the NGOs. So can we look at some intermediaries, some organization then which can ensure that these NGOs are good, or who can rate such NGOs? Is there any
Yeah.
possibility of some organization playing that role? They
Yeah,
certify NGOs for
Yeah.
their ethics and for their performance, so that corporates are well placed and they refer to that index, and then maybe, I'm sorry, I'm asking a counter question, but KK's thing was too tempting to let go of that. So maybe
No, Arun. Yeah.
yeah,
Arun, I love the question because I have exactly the answer for you. I'm going to find out your email ID from Lalita. I'm going to send you a list of 205 indicators
sure.
that will hopefully allow you to assess an NGO as good or bad. I'm going to send you that list before end of day.
Very nice. Thanks. I'm saying, can somebody evolve an index rating NGOs from that perspective, so that there's this some central rating that is available with certain credible agency? For instance, supposing Dhwani Foundation was to
Yeah.
do this exercise, or some
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
Quest Alliance was to do this, just throwing
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
idea. So
Yeah.
you study, say, 200, 300, 500 NGOs. Because
Yep.
honestly speaking, some NGOs have really given a bad name to this sector. Okay, so
Absolutely.
that is really unfortunate, but that is a fact of life. So in case some credible agencies can create an index wherein they rate NGOs on their credibility, ethics, performance, reach, and speciality. So that will help corporate and people who are ready to give funds
Got
and
it.
seeking implementing agencies can really help.
Got it. I think I may have an answer for you beyond what I told you. I will write to you on that email. We have a tool, so I'll also share that tool with you.
Sure.
But
Very
I know
nice.
I know
Yeah.
your question is beyond that, but let's talk about it.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, we
Thank you.
can. Arun, yes, that question about NGO credibility, of course, it may not be in the mainstream of our discussion today,
Sure.
but I think ultimately it is important when you look at a CSR and corporate and the NGO collaboration. So,
Sure. Sure.
unless there is credibility, the collaborations cannot really happen successfully. So that way, it is a very important point that you brought out just now. So, any few lines on the working with government, any government
Yeah, yeah.
collaborations?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Lalita, for reminding me. So we also work, we did not work with the ministries per se. If you refer to government bodies as ministries, we did not work with them because we are too new to get into the ministry domain because they have a certain guidelines for minimum experience of 3 years, 5 years, 4 years. And also we were unfortunately approached by certain people who claimed to be close to government and they offered to get us fund. We didn't want to get into thing. I don't want to talk about that. Okay, but we work with a lot of government-based organization. We signed an MOU with the Delhi Skill and Entrepreneur University, but we strongly believe in uh, converting students into employable, human beings. Yeah, we wanted to increase their employability by adding skills to whatever they're learning. And since we are from the logistics space, so we started conducting a competition for students who are studying logistics at Delhi Skill and Entrepreneur University, and we'll give them real life logistics problems that the sector is facing. And we organize a context day wherein people from across colleges will come and make a presentation, and people who excel in those presentations, we were straightway placed with our company and certain other companies also. And it was thrown open to all colleges, not only limited to Delhi Skill and Entrepreneur University. We did it for Delhi alone, but we have recently tied up with Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya, which is based in Vadodara. This is the new name for Railway Academy. This has been set up by Prime Minister of India. It's called Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. So they also run courses in logistics. And another thing that we do is we also uh, promote girl students who take up logistics because they say major mismatch in the number of girls who opt for this industry is very, very low. So we are helping them with their promoting their fees and other things. If economically weaker section girls take up some courses in logistics. That was second. Then we were approached by CRPF. CRPF has huge manpower. They have a manpower running in lakhs. So we went to CRPF camps and we conducted eye checkup camps for CRPF cadets because they again need eye health care because we had chosen to specialize in eye health care. Besides working with Vision Spring, we evolved our own capability also. We hired certain equipment, we engaged certain doctors who could conduct those eye checkup camps also. And we went to various traffic police. For instance, went to Delhi Traffic Police, we went to Kanpur Traffic Police, and we focused on providing eye checkup camps for the women constables who are driving two-wheelers. We provided them, besides eye checkup camp, we also provided them with helmets. So we did a lot of collaboration with government bodies, not directly with the ministries per se.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that input, Arun. Now, KK, actually, now coming back, actually, basically to a question which even Arun just put up. Dhwani's vision is to build a credible social sector. So, what are the collaborations that are helping you, Dhwani, achieve this? We are coming back to the credibility in the social sector again. So, what do you think are the kind of collaborations that will help towards this?
No, there's a lot of imagination possible when we look at collaborations within the social sector. For example, governance is such a big problem, and most NGOs have their relatives, friends, family, and their dog as their members of their board. At least things are changing rapidly today. I mean, probably what I'm saying is 10 years back. But yet, when you go and see several boards, you see that there is a lack of, and I would say there's a lack of exposure within the small, rural, medium NGOs. And there's a need for them to get some external talent in, an external person who understands a different world to come in and also be a part of their board. So we look at independent board members and bring them into these NGOs. We've got over 100 of them, and we think there is great value because the people who are part of the board today are part of the community. They understand the community very well. This person brings in a completely different angle into their organization and makes them think a little more differently. So that's one kind of collaboration. There are other players that we work with. We work with government extensively, and that collaboration we think is very, very key because there is, for example, no voice for the social sector in the government today. And therefore, can that be kind of worked upon? And we do that through federations. Government itself seeks a lot of help within the from the social sector, being one of the largest donors. And therefore, can we help them with several processes and systems and all of that? We did that little bit of that during COVID, and we think we can do a lot more. And I think doors are open. The government is very, very willing to engage with many of us. Similarly, as we are doing today, we want to engage and learn from the donor community in terms of what are the expectations of the sector for them, and how can we kind of, be a bridge to making that happen, right? There is university, such just a huge part that is so, kind of outdated, I would say, because curriculum is not today's curriculum, the curriculum that is relevant. MSWs are probably not what it should be. And so much can be done to bring great talent in. I think a lot of people today are interested in the social sector. People are willingly coming into the sector, but probably not getting the best education or inputs, that are required. And therefore, there is a huge collaboration, possible in that segment too. So we can look deep, we can look wide, and really use collaboration as a very, very key vehicle.
That's interesting. Thanks, KK. I would, Rohini, next question is for you. So basically, what's happening is despite the potential for addressing social challenges at scale, the number of collaborations between CSRs and projects is actually really not so high. It seems to be still work in progress. So where are the challenges? What do you think are the challenges of working with other corporates? I mean, do you have issues on alignments of thought, style of working? Of course, you mentioned that the vision has to align. So branding. We have heard people say that because of branding issues, corporates don't want to collaborate. So how did you overcome? Do you have any of these challenges, and how did you overcome them? That will really help the other corporates understand, and if they have to get into collaborations. So your experience on that, Rohini.
Yeah, I know that a lot of attendees today are actually NGOs. So I would definitely like to hear, also get Namrata to chime in on this and provide her inputs um, uh, from the perspective of how Quest Alliance has addressed it. But for us, I think, and yes, when the law became a reality in 2014, there were fewer collaborations. 2020 was when we started. So I think with every 5 years, you see a shift in approach. There's more willingness to look at it. So yeah, I think one should constantly try it. And for us, at a very personal, at a very individual level, the reason why it has worked is because every contributing entity, NGO, corporate, we've all left our egos at the door and have come in to the conversation with a willingness to contribute and learn in the process. So that's one thing. I think for us, we were very clear that branding that came almost second, third, as long as documents. Even now, we sometimes when we have to sign agreements and all of that, we all table it. We figure out what works, what doesn't, and it's not straightforward. Each company has a different requirement, but where we are all aligned is that the larger intent is to want to make it work without while staying compliant, right? So that's the framework within which we want to function. So that's one of the reasons it has worked. And of course, there's always that constant need to get the board, the governing council, to see the benefit and value in it. So it's not just about getting that approval, carrying out that, or implementing, but also going back and indicating to them why it. Anytime we are stuck with something, right, our board automatically tells us, why don't you check with the FRS and peers? Right, because they know that we are so connected. So they also see value in it. So that's how it's been. But I don't know, Namrita, would you like to add to what I just shared?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what you said, Rohini, was important, right? Like, I think both egos and logos have to be a little bit at the back burner. And logos, we've still figured out a mechanism. I think it's there. But today, I think there are some basic non-negotiables. Like, no one logo gets prominence over the other. That is the network logo, which is the most prominent, right? So if there is someone who's coming and saying, I would want my logo up front, then that's a clear no-no for all of us, right? So that fundamental value is there. I think it's a balance of how much is non-negotiable and how much we can accommodate, because we do understand CSR has laws. There are like utilizations and unique numbers and UCs and all of that needs to be done, right? So some of those models we've also worked with at the back end, right? How do you do cost sharing if three people are contributing to one area, which could be, for example, a research? How does one do attribution, right? And I think this is where some of the partners have been really helpful, like Rohini and all the other partners, all the other three partners. We have Accenture, Cisco, and JP Morgan. But sometimes when we get stuck on something, we've agreed on the intent, but when we get stuck on the how, they've really gone back and come back to us and says, what do you guys want? Like, what will make this work? So we maybe put
Okay.
table a few options on the table, and if they're not able to arrive because some one partner will say, this may not work for us internally. They are all sitting on the table as representatives. They agree with the intent, but they know at the back end this may not work. So we've been very fortunate because they come together and they say, okay, we will figure this out, right? So it's not a quest problem to solve. It's not an NGO problem to solve. It's a true partnership where, recently also, all four partners went back because there was a lot of feedback coming on a document, and they said, listen, this is too much for you guys. We will go back, we will have a discussion, we'll consolidate our feedback and we'll give it to you. So it's, I think the onus of making things work is on both ends, and that's when it's a true partnership. So it's we are really never in a situation when everyone's coming saying we want this, we want this, we want this, we want this, and you figure it out, right? That will never work because someone's just going to say that I can't do this or I can't accommodate, and some partners want to follow. So I think for us that has been really, really helpful, where partners have also taken the responsibility, saying this is actually not your problem. This is for us to figure out what we want to do. So
So that was a very nice input. I think that's a lot of learning when other corporates also want to get into it. That you didn't have to. I mean, basically, beat your head on certain things, and they got together and cleared it out for you. I mean, that's really fantastic to hear, because otherwise we only hear of challenges. Now here we are listening to how it positively the collaboration is working. And I want
May
to
I
come back to you,
share?
Namrata, again.
Yeah.
I want to come back to Namrata again. No, basically, you have been doing it's a multi-pronged collaboration, because you're, I think, also working with government schools, basically, right?
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like you as a fulcrum agency, then you have the corporates, and you're working with the government. So how does that equation work for you?
So we work with the government ITIs. We work with both, like when it's the state entity, which is the Department of Employability and Training, the DET, and we work with the central ministry, so Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, MSD. We work with these two. So we work in about 6, 7 states, and we work with the central ministry. We have agreements with all of them. The agreements are in the name of the network. Uh, Sometimes the agreement is in the name of Quest, whatever works. So again, the intent is saying that if this is faster, quicker, let's get this. Not every agreement, but some agreements have all four partner names. There are, so that's one from a logistic perspective. But I think couple of things. One, working with the government means that things are a little uncertain. Uh, Things may go slow, or things may actually move faster than one experience. This could be one change, and we've had requests saying, we'd like to roll this out immediately. Can you guys help? Right? So I think understanding how the government ecosystem works, even for the partners, and their understanding of this ecosystem has been very helpful, because what then happens is that there are delays and things are not happening. We do have quarterly steering committee meetings where we update them saying, we had decided to do this, we plan to do this, but this has happened, changes have happened, and hence this is not going to happen, right? So it is, we have to figure out, if there's money needs to be repurposed, deliverable needs to be recast. We are open to doing all of that. Yes, it's a little more work, but the idea again saying that we need to work with the government is clear. So one is there could be delays. Second, there's also times where there are requests saying, the government would like you to do ABCD. So then also the potential of, the collaborative coming together and saying, if this is what we need to do, and this was not decided on when we release the grants to you in the middle of the year, something's come up. Should we take it up? Should we not take it up? That's a collective decision. If we take it up, then how do we figure out the transaction? So I think on both sides that's helpful. third, I think, just like I said, that from a being a trusted advisor to the government, we also meet the government together once in 6 months. And today they see, 5 people, 10 people from 4 organizations walking in and saying, we are putting our name, our money, our effort, our resources behind this. And then the ability to be able to even have a dialogue as equal partners, saying that we are with you in this journey. Tell us what you can do. We would like this from you. You tell us what we would like us to do. Those kind of conversations have begun to happen, right? Otherwise, it's largely going to governments for permissions, for signing MOU. So it shifts from just saying, help us, do this, to saying, let's do this together. So I think that's a fundamental shift we've seen, and I think that's the biggest part of the collective. And like Rohini said, there have been people within Cisco, Accenture, other partners as well, SAP Labs and JP Morgan, where they have some connects with the government. Sometimes we are not able to kind of meet somebody, and Rohini will say, I know someone, let me try and figure out a meeting with the government. And she would actually come along with us, right? So that, I think, has always also helped, and that continues to go on.
Okay, that's fantastic. So this is one, I think, a very major takeaway for the collaboration, no? Why it is important to collaborate and how it can actually strengthen and make it much easier with the government, especially. Thank you for that, Namrata. I think Arun wanted to mention something, Arun?
Yeah, are you able to see me? It says my
Yes,
video
yes,
has been.
yes. Yeah, we can
Okay.
see you, Arun. Yeah.
Your camera has been disabled or something. It says
No, we can see you. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Go ahead.
Yeah, in fact, I was looking at the response about sharing branding during the interventions. Okay, I think we personally believe that sharing credit also enhances our own credit. So we happily share whenever we have joint venture collaboration with any of our partners. We display both the logos equally prominently, and we also thought of another innovative solution. When it comes to whose logos is bigger or whose logos is on the top or bottom. So we also create an event logo. For instance, when we arranged eye checkup camps, we called it Drishti Abhiyan. So we had a nice Drishti Abhiyan logo, which will come in the center, and then we'll have our own logo on one side and the other collaborators' logo on the other side. So we had that intervention logo, specially designed, especially if you're running a long campaign. But we strongly believe in sharing credits when it comes to that. But I know of certain organizations who have reservations about sharing the logo of implementing agencies, because they believe in case it's a paid implementation by certain agencies, then they do not put. But I know of such organizations also. But then that is how it comes. That is how such is life.
So that seems to be a common thread now here, because Namrata was also talking about the same thing. She said, it is the program logo that comes and all the other logos.
Correct.
Yeah, so that is important. So that seems to be a good way of avoiding the issues based on visibility. So, Namrata, any challenges that you faced? We have been talking about how the collaborations have helped. So you have been a fulcrum with 4 corporates and government. What were the challenges, especially with working with 4 different corporates? Were there any challenges at all?
Yeah, I just raised my hand while I think Namrita unmutes herself, or I think she's having an internet connectivity issue.
I'm back.
The one
I
main
had an issue. But sorry, Rohini, continue. You were saying something. Why don't you?
Yeah, I was going to say, Lalita asked if there are any challenges, like what would you like to talk about the challenges? So the one primary challenge that Quest Alliance always has is just scheduling, getting everybody together at the same time, which is probably the biggest nightmare. They do it time and again. They do it without accommodating everybody's requests. So that for sure.
Perfectly understand. Yes.
But yeah, that in itself is a lot of heavy lifting.
Okay. So Rohini has already given her point of view of what from your challenge. Now, Namrata, what else you have faced?
I think setting meeting times definitely is a challenge. Sometimes we also get like government events which get fixed in the last minute. and these are big launches, but important key ministers have schedules only last minute, and usually we send emails to all the partners saying today is Monday, Thursday there's an event in Delhi, can some of your senior leadership come, right? So then and most of the times they've made it possible. They've anchored, gone around, run around, figured out who can come, and people have come. So I think that's one challenge. Second, I think from the law perspective, I don't think CSR law makes it very easy to have collaborators, right? With all those unique numbers and UCs and cost sharing and all, there's a lot of law, and there's a lot of interpretation that happens around the law as well, right? So it really, for us, even when we get like new funders or we're talking to new funders, we have to be very careful on what is their interpretation of the law. So if they say I want to do only this and I will not do this and I will not do that, then however aligned our vision is, it may be difficult for us to get that partner on that board, and that's really not a great space to be. So if the law is a little more flexible on allowing more collaborators to work on a problem and not looking at the numbers and things, not can be figured out, right? Reporting can still be figured out. So today, just from a reporting perspective also, we have separate reports that go to each of the 4 donors, and we have an overall FRSN report, Future Right Skills Network report, that goes out every quarter. We don't mind doing it, but would it be easier if we could just do one? Yes, definitely, because a lot of organization time resources goes into this, and these are typically not resources that are paid, get paid from an overhead perspective, right? There's the idea of how much overhead should a nonprofit charge. But when the requirements are getting so stringent and you're trying to run a collaborative, it's actually sometimes double the overheads, right? Because you're doing all the individual requirements and then you're doing a collaborative requirement. So that I think is definitely a challenge, and I think what can help is really a law, an amendment to the law, hopefully in the favor of some of this, that would be.
Yeah, I think there is a internet issue. Your voice has been breaking a little bit, Namrata. So, but yeah, we were able to hear get the message clearly. And so I think, yes, let's hope the lawmakers hear this and we are able to see some positive changes. Now, what we will do is we will have one round of concluding remarks from all our panelists, and then I'm sure there are a lot of attendees wanting to interact and ask some questions. So we will see if we can have some time for the panelists to answer a few questions also. So again, let's start with you, Rohini. Now, your closing remarks on why corporates should collaborate and what are the critical aspects to keep in mind if they plan to collaborate.
I think I'll attempt this in Hindi again. Corporates should, collaborate तो इसीलिए करना चाहिए ताकि जो resources हैं वो optimally use किया जाए. And that's the most bare basic thing for us. इसे learning opportunities भी ज्यादा बढ़ती हैं जब आप बहुत सारे peers के साथ collaborate करते हो. और सबसे जरूरी बात यही होगी कि जिस एरिया पे आप कोलैबोरेट कर रहे हो वो एक कॉमन एजेंडा हो, नहीं तो ऐसा हो जाता है कि जो एनजीओ पार्टनर सेंट्रली ये इम्प्लीमेंट कर रहा है ना, वो खिंच जाते हैं, उनको पता नहीं उनको प्रॉब्लम हो जाती है. तो यही कहूंगी कि जो कोलैबोरेट करना चाहते हैं, साथ में काम करना चाहते हैं, उनका वो एजेंडा या जिस टॉपिक पे वो कोलैबोरेट करना चाहते हो वो कॉमन हो.
Thanks, Rohini. Arun, your closing remarks on why corporates should collaborate beyond grant giving.
Yeah, thanks, Lalita. I agree with Rohini. Whenever two people collaborate, like Rohini mentioned, one of our audience, Manoj, wanted something to be answered in Hindi. तो जैसे कहते हैं 1 और 1 11 होते हैं, एक का पावर जो होता है और 2 का पावर होता है, एक रहता है, पर इफ दे जॉइन हैंड देन देयर इज अ पावर ऑफ 11 पीपल. 1 और 1 11 बोलते हैं, जैसे हिंदी में एक देयर इज सेइंग. So if people collaborate with common vision and common passion, then I'm sure they can bring their respective strengths and they can have a multiplier effect on the impact that they create on the audience. I also want to touch upon a couple of things. You're talking about the challenges that one faces. For instance, I'll share a very interesting example. When Vision Spring and we together were organizing eye checkup camps for the truck drivers, we came across very interesting challenge. There was this huge stigma attached to this intervention. We were happily thinking, okay, we'll go and check their eyesight and they'll get spectacles, they'll be more efficient, they'll be very happy. We discovered that there's a huge stigma attached. They felt that in case they put spectacles, they'll be sacked from their jobs. So that is the kind of counseling we had to do with them, that if you have spectacles, you'll be able to see better, you'll be able to perform better, it'll be safer for you, safer for others. But simply did not believe. So we had to start with that counseling itself. So these are the kind of interesting challenges we come across. There was another interesting challenge that we faced is we also operate with a lot of corporates. For instance, we conducted a lot of eye checkup camps with Hero Group, Honda Group, Maruti, and a lot of other automobile companies. Sometimes when you get a feeling, if you're approaching someone to do a project, they get a feeling that as if we are riding on their reputation and as if they are doing us a favor, though we don't charge any money at all. So that is another interesting challenge that sometimes we face, but that is part of the game and part of the learning. So we really enjoy that.
Okay. Thanks, Arun. Namrata, your closing remark on collaborations being the way forward? You have really achieved major collaboration. So,
yeah, I'll try answer this in Hindi. तो मुझे लगता है कि अगर हमें ग्राउंड लेवल पे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करनी है तो वो प्रॉब्लम किसी भी वी वर्क इन एजुकेशन के लिए किसी भी युवा के लिए एक चीज से नहीं सॉल्व हो सकती। उसको साथ में लाने के लिए या उसको शिफ्ट करने के लिए आपको काफी सारी चीजें चाहिए होती है। वो चाहे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हो, चाहे काउंसलिंग हो, चाहे टीचर्स हो, चाहे करिकुलम हो, चाहे इंडस्ट्री कनेक्ट हो, चाहे जॉब रेडीनेस हो, अवेयरनेस हो, काफी सारी चीजें चाहिए होती है। और वो ये सारी चीजें कोई एक संस्था नहीं कर सकती, हम भी अकेले नहीं कर सकते। तो हम भी आज जो कोलैबोरेशन फ्यूचर राइट स्किल्स नेटवर्क की बात कर रहे हैं, टुडे वी आर एट अ स्टेज वेयर वी आर सेइंग कि अगर और नॉन प्रॉफिट्स हैं जो इसमें जुड़ सकते हैं तो हम उनको भी साथ में जोड़ेंगे। तो अगर हमें सही में एक प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर रहा है, ना कि हम CSR प्रोजेक्ट्स रन कर रहे हैं कि हम बॉम्बे, दिल्ली, बैंगलोर में प्रोजेक्ट्स रन करेंगे, व्हिच इज टिपिकली द एरिया वेयर CSR फंड्स लार्जली गो टू। पर अगर हम सही में देश में कहीं पे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करना चाहते हैं तो कोलैबोरेटर्स की बहुत जरूरत है। नहीं तो हम साइलोज में काम करते रहेंगे। और सम ऑफ द चैट आई वाज रीडिंग सम ऑफ द चैट सेड दैट जो छोटे ग्रास रूट एनजीओ हैं जो काम कर रहे हैं वो पीछे छूट जाते हैं। रिलेवेंट होता है, उनकी जो नॉलेज होती है, एक होलिस्टिक डेवलपमेंट कैसे सोचें, वो साथ आके ही साथ मिलके ही हो पाएगा।
yeah, thanks, Namrata. That because I think there are a lot of NGOs who are on this call, and it will really help. These inputs will definitely help them. KK, I just want you to talk about one particular thing before you give your closing remarks. How do you think collaborations can be encouraged in the larger ecosystem? Because when he works with the entire social sector ecosystem, how do you think we can socialize or promote the concept of collaborations?
I think there is an organic element, यानी कि एक तरह से बढ़ावा मिलेगा इस एंटायर कोलैबोरेशन एक्टिविटी को जब लोग जानेंगे कैसा करना चाहिए। आज मुझे लगता है कि ज्यादातर लोग इस व्हीकल के साथ में फेमिलियर नहीं है, तो थोड़ा दूर रहना चाहते हैं। जैसे जैसे लोग ट्राई करेंगे और सक्सेस पाएंगे, उतना उतना ज्यादा लोग इसको ट्राई करेंगे, क्योंकि इसका बेनिफिट बहुत ज्यादा है, मल्टीपल टाइम्स बेनिफिट है। तो जब उनको बेनिफिट दिखेगा और वो जानेंगे कैसे काम करना चाहिए और क्या लगता है दो पार्टीज को साथ में काम करने का जो तरीका है, जब जानेंगे तो मुझे लगता है एक बढ़ावा मिलेगा। The other organic part of it is that जैसे ही CSR boards become more ambitious and CSR departments become more ambitious, जैसे उनका ही यानी कि एम्बिशन बढ़ेगा, वैसे ही उनको नए तरीके अपनाने पड़ेंगे, जैसे कोलैबोरेशन। तो ये दोनों चीज शायद विल बी द ऑर्गेनिक वे। नहीं तो ऐसे वेबिनार्स एक तरह है वेयर कोलैबोरेशन कैन बी सोशलाइज्ड, व्हाइट पेपर्स विल बी ब्रॉट आउट, आई एम श्योर थोड़े दिन में लोग इसके ऊपर रिसर्च करेंगे, जानेंगे थोड़े और मटेरियल कुछ होगा जहां से हम ज्यादा सीख सकते हैं, ट्राई करने के लिए फ्रेमवर्क आएगा, सब कुछ आएगा थोड़े दिन में। बट मुझे लगता है कि जो जो आज कर रहे हैं, जो आज इसका पावर देखे हैं, उनसे आप बात करो तो आपको लगेगा कि ये बड़ी चीज है, this works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And KK, your closing remarks on the need for collaboration in the social sector to achieve sustainability. We're talking about scaling, of course. Ultimately, why do you think it is important to achieve sustainability in the sector?
I think people, the panel has already said it. I think it's not an option really. More and more, we're going to realize that the smarter way to go about doing whatever we are, and at scale, and in such unique ways as the experiments that we shared today, is only possible if people come together. So I think the vehicle itself has so many benefits that it can't be ignored.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Arun.
Yeah, I'm sorry to butt in again. Just wanted to add one more thing. When we talk of collaboration, we can even look at major collaboration amongst corporate CSR functions of corporates, NGOs, and foundations, wherein we can look at working on policy and advocacy. And I wouldn't like to call it lobbying with the government of India to make these interventions far easier instead of creating so many hindrances. I know a lot of corporates who, in frustration, end up dumping their money into PM Relief Fund or CM Relief Fund. And I'm not even talking about wherever they're forced to do it. I'm just referring to, so many hindrances being created with the new policy guidelines. Let's come together, let's collaborate and say that all of us have good intention to serve the society, to improve the quality of life and do something for the society. So let us do it, peacefully instead of creating hindrances by all the new policies. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, before we close, I think can we take a few questions from the attendees? They're all on mute.
There are some questions. And Shriman Narayan had asked 2 questions. You can ask Shriman.
Shripa Narayan, I think, had some questions. Yeah, what will be the intake on collaborations for grassroots NGOs? So,
Lalita, may I recommend that somebody curate the question? There are certain things that are overlapping. Maybe there's an opportunity to pick a few, just club it together, and we can take turns to address it. That way we don't miss out on anything, but it's optimal use of the limited time that we have on the call.
Yeah.
We see a lot of hands getting raised. So I think maybe you can read out some of those questions.
Yeah. There is a question. 1 second.
Is the community open for multi-organizational funding? Is that right, the question?
Yeah. So somebody is asking, should it be called collaborations or sharing of resources?
I don't know if that was a question or somebody was thinking out loud.
Okay, now of course there are questions which are not directly related to collaborations also. Why CSR are limiting their area of operation? I think they mean geographical area, because I think we have a lot of grassroots and rural NGOs who are there on the. So no, Rohini, would you like to answer that?
And we've used that lens in the past. कभी कभी ऐसा भी हुआ है कि हमको ऐसा geography choose, particularly ऐसा geography choose किया है सिस्को की तरफ से। ये तभी होता है जब हमारे हर प्रोजेक्ट में डिजिटल कंपोनेंट होता है, और ये तो हम नेगोशिएट कर ही नहीं सकते क्योंकि हम है ही डिजिटल कंपनी। जैसे आप किसी फार्मास्यूटिकल कंपनी को जाके नहीं बोल सकते कि आप हेल्थ केयर में कुछ मत करिए या उसको इम्पोर्टेंस मत दीजिए। हमारे लिए डिजिटल हर चीज का बैकबोन बन जाता है, एंड दैट्स रियली इम्पोर्टेंट। तो अगर हमारे प्रोजेक्ट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में ऐसा होता है कि उस लोकेशन में, जियोग्राफी में डिजिटल होना चाहिए, एंड अभी तो भारत नेट देश के हर गांव में पहुंच रहा है कि कुछ गांव में ऐसा भी है कि कनेक्टिविटी भी स्ट्रांग है, लेकिन ऐसे भी कुछ क्षेत्र हैं जहाँ पे कनेक्टिविटी इतना स्ट्रांग नहीं है। उस रीजन के वजह से उस कारण से ऐसा हो सकता है कि हम एक पर्टिकुलर ज्योग्राफी में ना जाएं या थोड़ा हेजिटेशन हो हमारी तरफ से। नहीं तो ऐसा नहीं है कि हम एक पर्टिकुलर ज्योग्राफी में नहीं जाना चाहते। वो एक है फैक्टर। दूसरा फैक्टर है जो एनजीओ, जिस एनजीओ संस्था के साथ हम जुड़े हुए हैं, उनका वहां पे एक्सपर्टीज क्या है, नॉलेज क्या है एंड एक्सपीरियंस क्या है। क्योंकि द लार्जर इंटेंट इज ऑफ कोर्स दैट द प्रोजेक्ट शुड सक्सीड, सो वी वांट टू लुक एट द फैक्टर्स दैट कैन एंश्योर सक्सेस टू द बेस्ट एक्सटेंट पॉसिबल। इसका मानना ये नहीं है कि फेलियर के लिए हमारे पास एपेटाइट नहीं है, हो जाता है कभी कभी, लेकिन ये यही दो चीजें हैं जिसके कारणवश हम किसी जियोग्राफी में जाने से थोड़ा हिचकिचाते हैं।
I think there are a lot of questions based on geography.
Yeah.
Yes, Arun, you want to add to
Yeah, I can just add to Rohini's point, interesting point. Essentially, what happens is usually corporates tend to confuse between what is community development and what is CSR. So community development intervention are mostly to procure license to operate. They want to keep all the communities around their workplace happy, so therefore they tend to spend more and more money. And fortunately, the law allows that community development expenditure to be booked under CSR spends. That is why most of the corporates tend to focus on CSR intervention around their workplace. So in case there is some modification in that, then corporates will be more encouraged to go India-wide or country-wide have their interventions. Just an observation.
And there's another question says, can are CSRs open for multi-organizational fundraising proposals? So I have a feeling it is like if multiple organizations together come and approach you, multiple NGOs come to you together with one proposal, are you open to looking at Rohini or Arun?
Yeah. Depends on whether the project is relevant for us. Certainly, we are absolutely open on whether it is one entity or multiple entities. Roni, want to add?
No, likewise. I think we're not averse to it. It's the clarity of approach. What is it that you're trying to do? I think through, and maybe Namrata can add to it, as part of FRSN, and maybe we're talking too much about FRSN, but we're giving examples. That's the only reason we're bringing it up. There are a lot of civil society organizations that are part of the collaborative. It's not just about donors. तो बहुत सारी संस्थाएं, कुछ ऐसी संस्थाएं भी हैं जो बहुत यंग है और जिनका एक्सपीरियंस कम है, लेकिन वो भी कंट्रीब्यूट करते हैं इन अ मीनिंगफुल मैनर। So हमने देखा है, and I think इसमें फायदा है. We are not averse to it.
Okay. So Namrata, you want to add to this? How do you think NGOs can, collaborate with? I mean, is there a way they can get started, or how do they? You have a very successful model in hand. So, any advice for the other NGOs, especially the smaller NGOs?
I think one is, and I'll switch off my camera because I know my voice was choppy. तो एक तो ये है कि काफी सारे छोटे छोटे कोलैबोरेटर्स ऑलरेडी शुरू हो रहे हैं इवन ग्रास रूट लेवल पे। तो ये सोच के कि हम अपना कोलैबोरेटिव बनाना है, इसके अलावा ये भी सोच के कि हम किस कोलैबोरेटिव में जुड़ सकते हैं। ग्रास रूट लेवल पे देर आर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन सपोर्टिंग कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग। मैंने ये भी देखा, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग का क्वेश्चन था, एंड दे आर ब्रिंगिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस टुगेदर टू मेक चेंज एट द लेवल। सो फॉर एग्जांपल, आई जस्ट गिव यू द Rebuild India Fund that Dasra has started. It's a very small grant that they give, but it is largely for capacity building. छोटे NGOs का जो capacity building need है वो हो सकता है। Collaborators में भी हम भी काफी NGOs के साथ, it's not legal, but उनके साथ उनका जो experience है वो हम कैसे ले सकते हैं, हमारा जो experience है वो हम उनको कैसे दे सकते हैं। हम Quest itself, we were talking of Future Access Network, we are part of at least 5 other collaboratives, right? And many of them have छोटे grassroots NGOs as well, because that knowledge is also important. So I think networks में plug in होना important है। ध्वनि जैसे है, दसरा है, सत्रह है, a lot of these collaborators are being run by these intermediaries, so it's important to also, I think, be in touch with them to see कि कहाँ पे क्या चल रहा है और आप किसमें आप सही बैठ सकते हैं।
There's another question which is, will collaboration ensure sustainability for NGOs? Of all NGOs of all sizes in India, So, or is it only for
I
large
can
NGOs?
answer that.
Yeah. Yes,
I don't think
Namrata.
collaboration is for the sustenance of the NGOs, but तो my view is that at some point NGO should also think कि अगर ये problem solve हो जाता है तो क्या मैं अपना NGO बंद कर सकता हूँ. That's the eventual goal. ना कि sustenance is is a very big question mark for all of us as NGOs. So I don't know if collaboration helps it. What it helps is शायद वो problem छोटा हो जाए, शायद वो problem बदल जाए और आप कुछ और नए problem पे काम करेंगे. So I think that's the way to look at collaboration. I don't think it's a sustenance question, but it's अगर आप आपने संस्था खोली है, आपने इसमें खोली कि आपको कुछ सुधारना है कम्युनिटी में, अगर वो सुधार हो सकता है देन कोलैबोरेशन इज रियली वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर दैट. सस्टेनेंस हम भी सोच रहे हैं कैसे होता है. आई डोंट थिंक वी हैव आंसर्स.
Another question is, what is the basic criteria for an NGO to collaborate with a CSR?
That's a very generic question, right? There
Very
is no
generic.
right answer. Yeah, and it's very specific to the corporate that you're talking to. मैं केवल
Yeah.
यही कहना चाहूंगी कि होमवर्क करना बहुत जरूरी है. जब हम किसी नए एनजीओ से बात करते हैं, हम भी थोड़ा रिसर्च करते हैं बैक एंड. उसी तरह मेरा यही रिक्वेस्ट है कि अगर आप किसी डोनर को अप्रोच कर रहे हो तो आपकी तरफ से भी डू अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ रिसर्च. सोशल मीडिया में क्या क्या पोस्ट जाते हैं, वो क्या क्या क्राइटेरिया देखते हैं. दिस विल हेल्प यू प्रिपेयर बेटर. So rather than taking a generic, like one model fits all kind of an approach, right? Look at how you can customize it for the donor that you're reaching out to. You have a better chance at having a positive outcome.
Anybody from the donors, from attendees, from CSR donors who are attendees, have any questions to the corporate panelists here? Most of the questions we have are from NGOs. Yeah. And most are a similar question. So somebody says collaboration should result in quantifiable and measurable outputs and outcomes. Alternately, we can establish a network for sharing lessons learned and best practices. So can we have a small discussion on that? That's a very interesting point. So how do corporates, the CSRs, share best practices and learn from each other? One we are collaborating, but now this practice, how can this be used by, say, other corporates who want to get into something like that? Is there a way we can actually think of resource sharing, which can actually help the sector in a very big way? Any thoughts on that, Arun or Rohini?
Yeah, okay, I'll attempt answering that. In fact, there are a lot of CSR groups which exist, wherein all the corporate CSR people are part of, and they happily share learnings with each other. They also seek advice on seeking the best resources or whatever learnings they've had. So this is a common practice, like Roni was also sharing that she spoke to one of her friends asking her something. So that is a common practice amongst people who are into communication and CSR to talk to each other and seek advice and give advice. So it's a very common practice that we follow. But we can have some forums, like for instance, today's forum that you have organized. That again is one of the examples of how this can be, this learnings can be shared not only amongst corporates, amongst NGOs and foundations and donors, recipients, everyone.
Yeah, I
Anything
echo
you want
that
to add to
sentiment.
it?
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I echo that the sentiment that Arun shared, right? We talk about it. We talk about it very openly. In fact, what we've been doing since 3 o'clock is exactly that. It's a pity that we don't have as many donors in the room as we do, but I think the intent was to also speak to all the organizations that Dhwani works with to call out how we work together. I do want to add that it can be a frustrating experience. It is a frustrating experience, but that doesn't mean we stop trying. It's about trying. And even as an NGO, right, आपकी एक आवाज है. जब आप किसी से बात कर रहे हो, डोनर से बात कर रहे हो, तो आप बोल सकते हो कि हमने ऐसा सुना है कि ये कॉर्पोरेट ऐसा कर पा रहा है, क्या आपको इंटरेस्ट है इसमें? अगर agar chahiye, so we can connect you to the right people, or I can point you in the right direction. Sometimes they just don't know. But otherwise, largely, that's what, there is an intent to want to come together. And I think that's an evolution from where we were a few, maybe a decade ago. That realization that there's only limited funding and there is a need to achieve so much with a population of 1.4 billion that we are, and multiple complex problems to solve, wicked problems to solve. There is that need to support each other. I don't know if I digressed, but I hope that addressed part of the question.
Okay.
You
So
know,
there's
Lisa,
another, yes, KK, yeah.
now I just wanted to interpret that question a little differently. I think the way I read the question was that if you don't have real outcomes and real outputs as part of the collaboration, then nice to have good stories, practices, all of that. That's really not the intent is. So to Rohini's point, I think any collaboration that has hard matrices around them that can be measured, right, will be a difficult process to go through because four people have to agree or three people have to agree. And that is really the challenge of what a collaborative movement is all about. And when people learn to do that well, I think this is going to be big. And I think people are learning that very, very quickly because everybody's saying all the right things, right? Meeting of minds, meeting of intent, and all of that is a great start point. And then things start to build over it. And I think because people are reporting to real boards that have hard questions for them, everything has an outcome, an output, an impact, and all of that kind of is contained within the story. And that's probably what is nice about all the stories of collaboration that we are hearing, listening to today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'd just like to add one point from some of the collaborators we've been part of, that sometimes to define the outcomes of a collaborative is also an evolutionary journey. वो
Very
भी
nice.
इवॉल्व होता है. हम जो सोच के निकलते हैं कि हम साथ में करेंगे, ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम भी रियलाइज कि हमने शायद ज्यादा सोचा था, हमने कम सोचा था. काफी टाइम कोलैबोरेशन में तो साथ में करने में लग जाता है. हम एक और कोलैबोरेटिव में काम करते हैं झारखंड में, जहाँ पे कई बार हम आपस में विद इन एनजीओ आल्सो वी आर सेइंग कि अगर ट्रेनिंग में तो कौन करेगा, कौन सा पार्टनर करेगा, और अगर हम तीनों ट्रेनिंग करने जा रहे हैं तो व्हाट डज इट मीन फॉर द स्कूल. अब वो फिगर आउट करने में ही टाइम लगता है. तो हम अपने कमिटमेंट्स कैसे कर रहे हैं, वो भी एक ओपननेस होना चाहिए कोलैबोरेटिव में कि हम इवॉल्व करें और हम साथ में बनाएं, नॉट जस्ट कि it's again the job of the NGO. For example, अभी हम जब काम कर रहे थे, all of us 4 partners and Quest got together and said कि अच्छा अगर ये हमारा विजन है 3 साल का, तो इसके कौन से आउटकम्स मेक सेंस. इनफैक्ट हमने थोड़े आउटकम्स रखे थे जो फंडर्स ने बोला कि ये शायद आप नहीं कर पाओगे, आप सोच लो इसके बारे में, बिकॉज वी डोंट थिंक कलेक्टिवली, द ecosystem is right to do this. So this idea of also co-creating some of this and being open to changing them as we go along is also important.
Yeah. Yeah, we have losing your voice, Namrata. And there's another question, Anil Bharadwaj. Is there any organization who is working to strengthen capacity building to grassroots rural NGOs? Yes, Dhwani does that. So you can go into our website and get in touch with our team. And
Planted question.
no, we don't know who is it.
Just joking, sorry.
Yes.
No, I'm happy if it is.
Okay, there is a student here who wants to know how can students be engaged in the sustainable development in the aspect of collaboration. Anybody wants to have any advice to student community who wants to be a part of
they should volunteer. They should volunteer for ESG, sustainability, and CSR activities, and there are a lot of options now. This adds to their profile, this adds to their character, this adds to their values. Amazing initiative, actually. They should do that. They should volunteer, and a lot of organizations that are coordinating that volunteerism with corporates. Rohini, you wanted to say something?
No, actually, on this point, I didn't. I think most recently we had an intern come in. If you were talking about a student community who took on a project, so it's a good opportunity for you to learn about the sector. And again, these words are all interchangeably used. Right? There's CSR, there's sustainability, there's ESG, SDG. All इसको alphabet soup कहा जाता है of all the alphabets that are used commonly in the domain. So try doing an internship. It's not easy, but there are opportunities that show up, and you don't have to do it with a corporate. You can you don't just. That's not how I meant it to sound. but it don't just focus on corporates or NGOs. Look at opportunities that are meaningful, where whoever you're collaborating or working with, right, is able to devote time and mentor you well. Grab those opportunities, remote or otherwise. Even if it's a 1 month period, it's a good learning opportunity. So that's one starting point for sure.
Okay. So there is already somebody is offering collaboration here. So we have somebody who says, "I am Vijay Prakash from NASCOM Foundation, Bangalore. If you're also working in the women empowerment domain, and would be great if the organization is working in women involved in 3 sectors, namely agriculture, handicraft, handloom, and manufacturing. We will be happy to connect for further discussion." Good. So opportunities for collaborations are already coming up here.
Very nice.
Okay, I think, yeah, now we have taken, I think many of the questions are sort of repetitive, so we didn't go into all the questions. So I would like to close by saying that I think it was a very, very engaging conversation, and I'm sure a lot of learning for all the NGOs and the CSRs who are there from the attendees today. A big thank you to all of you for taking time, accepting our invitation, and being here. Thank you, Rohini. Thank you, Arun. Thank you, Namrata. Thank you, KK.
A lot of learning for me also. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this forum.
And a lot of learning for us also from all of you panelists, not just for those who are attending the webinar. So collaborations is a way forward, and I think we will all go all out to collaborate and achieve success in the social sector. Thank you, panelists, and thank you to all the attendees who are here and who have been engaging with a lot of questions. We are really sorry we were not able to take all the questions, so we could just pick a few, and because of time constraint. So thank you again. Meet you all in the next Plan Plus webinar, which will be coming up soon. Thank you all.
Thank you. Well conducted, Lalita. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay.
Finish.